Hitting life we consider weaker now. Jade will be most unaffected. A good Jade doesn't need to use Guardian Spirit. But you know, I think I might be done with your advice there, Dakota. A certain somebody was telling me that he did not have enough healing on his life school in order to compete with Myth. Gume, I think a low-level roundtable would be helpful in the somewhat far future. I agree. A low-level roundtable would be helpful if only there were a content creator who was involved with low-level PvP and was family friendly. What a shame! We can't find anybody that fits that bill.
Attention, the following video is going to totally kick ass. If you enjoy any of it and or have a large penis, please click the like button below. Enjoy.
I just bought Death Mastery, and then 5 hours later, you guys make sacrifice, no PvP, completely destroying my purchase. Why no warning? Completely wasting my money and ruin low-level PvP, which a lot of people care about. Okay. Why would you buy a Death Mastery? You should expect treasure cards to come and go in PvP. First of all, I mean that's a thing that's been happening for a good 2 years solid. So you should expect that. We have, I would say, probably eight or nine other ways to look at jading that we haven't looked at yet. And at the bottom of that, at the bottom of the pile, like at the bottom of the stack, depending on who's asking, right? For Artie, it might be the top of the stack. For me, it's the bottom of the stack. Um, is heal per pip. I think that we probably won't need to look at heal per pip, and I would prefer not to do that. I would probably say that looking at incoming outgoing healing is probably more fertile ground than HPP. England says, I like the idea of nerfing heals, but life needs something to compensate in this nerf. No, I'm not sure I agree. Now there's main deck competition for heals. I would probably say that we may be headed in the direction of limiting card copies across main and side deck, which I have spoken on many times, right? If we had card copy limits across main and side, then you would probably see more spells have TC versions. The problem is the sideboard is completely unregulated. Completely unregulated. You know, if you have a sideboard of 20 or 30 or 40 cards, they could all be the same thing. And we don't have any way to restrict copy limits in the sideboard. Probably I would head that direction. And I would also say it's probably good for PvE, certainly PvE hard mode, but maybe even PvE. Giant Breeze says this update is actually great in practice. The problem is it completely ruined low-level PvP, which is unfair to us who paid $20 for mastery. Can there be some sort of compensation? Well, no. I'd start by saying probably not. Um, I would not recommend that you try to buy your way into certain things. You guys know very well, like it's no surprise that our focus is on max level PvP. I've been saying it for a good 2 years. We are focused primarily on max PvP. Problem of you guys harvesting rank off of unsuspecting children. Basically, unsuspecting noobs. Gume, I think a low-level roundtable would be helpful in the somewhat far future. I agree. A low-level roundtable would be helpful if only there were a content creator who was involved with low-level PvP and was family friendly. What a shame! We can't find anybody that fits that bill. When we say low level, we mean 60 to 69, which is the most lively level of PvP with non-chads. But it changes, right? You guys, I'll tell you this. We won't have a low-level league for every band that you guys happen to decide to play in, right? The feedback to us was we're looking for specific rule sets to be excluded from our PvP. We don't like shads. It's a very, very strong feedback that we got from the 99-ish crowd, right? We don't like shadow hits. Um, but we're not going to have a 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 78. We're not going to give you guys a league for every possible level that you have. It's not going to happen, right? And it would, if the best reason is we would simply divide the player pool so thinly that no one would be able to play. I'd be curious to hear from the life mates, right? If you had your choice of the TC heals or the timer penalty, right? Which would you rather have had? And I think the TCs is probably the better way to go, but the timer penalty is an imprecise tool. It is a big hammer, right, to solve the problem. I'd prefer not to do that. Stephanie says, what about actual low-level PvP players on the round table, not just content creators? Well, it's a yes and a no, right? The purpose of our roundtables is specifically to highlight content creators, right? It's one of the things we're trying to do because they have an audience. We show up as their guest. They host the roundtable, right, for their audience. But that does not mean that whoever is hosting can't reach out to players, and bring them in. So let's say, Bob is the content creator and he's hosting. He happens to know that Chris is a great little PvP player who doesn't happen to stream. Bob should invite Chris in, or Chris should talk to Bob. Chris says, "Hey Bob, I know a lot about little PvP. Will you put me on your hip for the roundtable?" That's okay, right? But the purpose of these roundtables, at the top of the objective list, is for us to allow content creators to host us in a conversation. So that's kind of the format of those. Every time I ask who are the good low level players, I get very few answers. Right? Gume comes up for whatever reason his name comes up all the time. His name comes up. I've seen a couple of others, but generally speaking, there's not a ton. And if you're not family friendly and you're toxic, you've automatically excluded yourself. Like, sorry, but, it's just consequences. Honorable Apprentices get Gume and James the Ace. Did you miss the part about family friendly? The occasional colorful language. Okay, if your stream is mostly for adults, that's okay. Um, but just we have to be careful who we're spotlighting because if children play our game and presumably we're trying to elevate these people, so we need to be careful about that to some degree. So Gume says I'm not exactly super family friendly. Well, all right. Uh, some people are just going to end up being a completely untenable mix of not family friendly and toxicity. So that's what can you say? Dropping a few salty f bombs in your chat is probably a no go from the content creators. If the chat itself is doing that, it would look a little bit differently from that, but but it specifically matters who you're directing the f bombs at as well. So we hear the players who are saying, you know, if you make it free, if you make more of it free, more people will play. Like, we hear that, and uh, it makes a lot of sense. But remember that we're looking for people who don't just show up to play for free, but play for free and then continue going, right? So that's kind of what we're looking for, and we're seeing some positive things, right? We're seeing some positive things, so. I'm not sure if I gave you guys my ice cream analogy before, but you know, giving away free samples to everybody forever only goes so far. It only goes so far. And someone asked earlier if we would roll anything back, and the answer is probably yes, right? But I mentioned before, I don't have control over when I can make changes, right? Like patching a live service is not something that I'm allowed to just make the call. Hey, let's patch this in, right? Uh, and I mentioned, I often mention we're not in a hurry. One of the reasons that we're not in a hurry is, well, the main reason is because we like to see how things play out, right? And we had hoped that solutions would arise to Jade's, and they did, by the way. I'll note that they did. Gume, in particular, has been taking rank from Jade's for a while now, right? What is your thoughts on making Guardian Spirit have a one-time use only in PvP? Realistically, you not need to use it twice unless you're stalling. I mean, okay, but I mean, I think with a 20-second penalty, you should end up losing anyway, unless you are strictly better than the other person. Reshuffle should cost less pips. I think you mean fewer, and no, it shouldn't. I think 4 is actually where it should be. What about ban shuffle again, but limit it to 4 like you did with the bubbles? I mean, we talked about putting the TC reshuffle ban back in place, and did not, because sometimes beating a Jade requires heavy cycling. That's why. Dakota says Jade is still going to exist, by the way. Maybe. They didn't necessarily need TC heals to win. They already don't have to pack any hits already. This seems more like a nerf to life hitters than to Jade's. We'll see. Voyager says this Jade plague needs to end because we need Ratbeard gives attention to Team PvP. Yeah, I still can't do that for a while. When Ratbeard says a while, it scares me because 5th H has been soon for almost 2 years. 5th H has never been soon until the last time I mentioned it. I've never said it's soon. Incorrect. Unfair. Not true. Does forcing life to put heals in main possibly lead to them having a harder time killing the opponent? Of course it does. Hitting life we consider weaker now. Jade will be most unaffected. A good Jade doesn't need to use Guardian Spirit to supply. You know, I think I might be done with your advice there, Dakota. A certain somebody was telling me that he did not have enough healing on his life school in order to compete with Myth.